Next we have Robin McCarthy. Has that been circulated? Yeah. So you, good afternoon, Robin. Your submission got lost in the system, I'm told. So the councillors have got it as a separate submission. It's been circulated to you, yeah, rather than in the folder. So apologies for that. Welcome. Yeah, far away.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. And yes, I did get lost, and yeah, that's the way it goes sometimes, but there you go. I think we'll manage that. Councillors, I'm going to offer this council $1 million in savings on the funding currently going to Christchurch Canterbury Tourism. Now, how can this be achieved? It can be achieved quite simply through a tender process. I've looked at the funding that's gone to this private company over a long period of time, and there's never been a contract between the council and Christchurch Canterbury Tourism, which is in itself is a private company. Make no mistake about it, that's its legal entity. It may have a shareholder trust, but anyway, I would also contend that they're not abiding by the purposes of that trustee. So, at the moment, there is what they call, what the council describes as a level of service agreement. And when I asked about what that was, it was just basically what was written into the draft annual plan and the 3-year plan. That to me is very unacceptable indeed. So anyway, one of the issues that we've had with this organisation too is the lack of transparency. Because it's a private company, it hides under this so-called status, and they're quite entitled to do so. I've asked them many, many questions over the years, and I haven't had the answers, and I think that those answers should be readily available. And I'll give you one example. There's an entry in the annual report going back to 2011 of $412,671 of other expenses. The year before it was $384,000. What is it? You know, there have been a couple of councillors, well, under the fact that it's actually a council organisation, which is only just a title, it means that the council has the power to appoint a couple of directors to the board. Why are the council appointed directors not asking these questions? That's a lot of money, other expenses. If I've got $50 of other expenses in my accounts, my accountant's on to me and saying, well, what's it all about? So these are the things which I think need to be addressed. One of the big concerns is that the CCT has been running what they call a membership scheme. Now, I looked into this as well. Its predecessor was an incorporated society, and the tourism stakeholders were members. Now, if you're a member, you're entitled to ask anything of the company. You set the policy, or of the society, you set the policy, and there's full transparency. Now, what would appear has happened is that when it was changed into a private company, it just carried on as normal, soliciting upfront fees off the tourism stakeholders. It's wrong. Now, because I jumped onto it, they've now turned it into what they call a business partnership. Well, it's not a partnership either under the Partnership Act. So what I'm saying is that this whole concept of soliciting upfront fees from tourism stakeholders should be abolished now. I mean with immediate effect, and it can be done by sending a memo from the council as a condition of its funding that that is what they have to do. It's actually illegal. I'll tell you now, it's illegal, councillors. Now, the other problem that we've got is they have a differential commission scheme. I've got a form in here, I'll show it to you. Anything I'm saying today, I'll show it to you. Where you choose your own commission. So this is pitching one operator against another. And a classic example of that was this year at Akaroa, when the cruise ship was in. Every single booking on the morning that I was there went to one company, whether it was a local tour around Akaroa or a tour to Christchurch or a shuttle operation or a shuttle service into Christchurch. Now, I can only assume that that company must be paying the 20% commission, but they won't tell me. I've asked for a copy of what entity, how much commission they're paying, how much funding they're receiving from CCT, and I can't get that. They won't give it to me. So I think it has to stop, because at the moment I'm not actually represented at CCT, so every single sale they make to another company is using public funding to compete against me. It can't go on. It'll end up in the courts, councillors. It's as simple as that. So I'm asking for 3 things immediately. Send a memo to CCT, drop the upfront fee requirement. Nobody minds paying a fee, I should add. I'll just qualify that. If they are purchasing brochure space or something of that nature on their walls or in their display racks. But when it's attached to this business partnership and membership, then what that effectively means that you have to sign a form, and then that's a restrictive trade practice because you're not even allowed to go and invest in any other visitor centre elsewhere in New Zealand. Well, that's illegal too, but this is what's going on. Now, I can understand why they don't want this to happen because it's taking away an element of their power, but the power should rest within the tourism stakeholders in the industry, who not only have their capital at risk, but they also have their incomes at risk. So that's one thing I'm asking. The other memo, which should be sent to them immediately, is this drop this commission, differential commission. It's pitching one operator against another. And the other thing that should be put out to competitive tender, because I have a company called Christchurch Area Tourism Limited. Not that I want to be involved in doing it, but anyway, if I have to, councillors, I'll be putting in a tender bid, will be $1 million less than what you're currently paying this organisation. And that's a big saving. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Paul?
Probably more a commentary rather than actually a question, but personally I have a concern that CCT are taking cruise ships from what used to come into Christchurch, Littleton Port, now down to Kaikoura, and considering the funding input from the other unitary partners is only 1%. Do you have any comment around that?
Is this the funding that goes directly to CCT?
These are the funding that the various other partners put into the actual CCT fund, and 1% of the entire fund is paid for by the other parts of Canterbury. Christchurch is actually funding the majority of it, and we're seeing the cruise ships being pushed out of Christchurch into the Greater Canterbury, who only proportionally put in 1% of the fund.
Well, you could say that's rather inequitable as well. There is another aspect which has come about in the last couple of years, and that's the Mackenzie District Council's now pumping $200,000 into CCT and effectively managing their tourism promotions and so on and so forth. But 1%, seems a derisory amount of money when you consider against what this council here is funding CCT. I trust that might.
No, that does. It just was commentary.
Any other questions? No? Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.